Welcome to the Midwife Pip podcast, Bitesize, the home of all things pregnancy, birth and motherhood. This week, I'm sharing with you some golden moments and nuggets of information that will change your pregnancy, birth or postpartum journey for the better. You'll find the full episode linked in the description. But for now, wherever you are, let's dive into some short but transformative chat. Today's clip is from episode 25 with expert Stacey Zimmels, chatting about infant feeding. In this clip, we share advice on how to have a smoother feeding journey with your baby.
And it's also important to know that your feeding choice is your choice, but that in the early days, it may well be that for a medical reason or because there's something going on with your baby, that choice, just needs to be a little bit reconsidered, perhaps just in the short term. So for example, I can use myself an example. I needed to pump milk on the third or fourth day of both my little ones' lives because they had quite severe jaundice and they were having phototherapy, and I was being asked by the medical team to top them up and to try and encourage my milk to come in. Now, that wasn't my infant feeding choice. My choice was to exclusively breastfeed from the breast, but here I was giving pumped milk from a bottle alongside breastfeeding. And then I went back to exclusively breastfeeding at the breast once that phase had passed. So if that is you in those early days and things come along that are outside of your control, it doesn't mean that you can't revert back to your choice with support and help if needed.
And I guess that's the same with so much, isn't it, in our pregnancy choices, is that we sometimes need to just have that little bit of flexibility, that we might divert from our plan a little bit, but hopefully with the right sort of support and information, we can get back to the journey that we were hoping for. So it kind of, infant feeding kind of fits in with all of that as well.
Yes, yeah.
Now, we so often hear, I think any Google search will bring up the phrase breast is best. And we've had campaigns over the years and we've seen this phrase kind of plastered everywhere. Is this a helpful phrase, Stacey? And are there any kind of health advantages that are associated with breastfeeding that mums need to know about?
Sure. I mean, I just don't feel that this phrase can be helping anybody in any way. Firstly, it's best in terms of what? Comparing, it's suggesting that, best is better than something else. And it starts to pit one infant feeding choice up against the next infant feeding choice. And in no situation really is that going to be helpful for mums. And it already sets the scene for sort of judgment and the idea that within sort of the context of parenting that, well, my choice is better than yours. And then what happens and how do mums feel if they had hoped to breastfeed and actually they found either it wasn't right for them, they didn't enjoy it, or they had multiple challenges and they couldn't access support to overcome those? How does it then make you feel with this idea that, sort of dangling in the air, therefore you're not the best or you're not giving your child the best? So I find it really quite unhelpful. I think being informed is best and making the right choice for you when it comes to infant feeding is best. Now, there are multiple health advantages to breastfeeding your child. And that's in the context of looking at breastfeeding being this sort of evolutionary mammalian way of a mother providing milk to their child long before other feeds were sort of in place in this world, really. And with that, it's evolved to for the milk to really support the health of the infant. And so there are benefits associated that are usually, most of the ones that I will cite have been looked at in terms of mothers exclusively breastfeeding, i.e. giving no other milk for at least 6 months. So some of them longer. And so, for example, they may be things like ear infections, respiratory illnesses, gastroenteritis, certain childhood leukemias, I should have written a list because I'm never going to remember them all off the top of my head. Certain allergies or as well. It's, sort of certainly thought to be more hypoallergenic. And then longer term in terms of something called the microbiome, which is the sort of makeup of the infant gut that through to adulthood to provide longer term protection around certain diseases. And there are benefits also for a mother who is breastfeeding, particularly and specifically with quite astounding reductions or lower risk of getting breast and ovarian cancer. So there's a real multitude of those. Now, with me saying that these studies, look at exclusive breastfed infants for 6 months, I suppose if you're listening, you're thinking, well, what if I breastfeed for 6 months and give a bottle of formula as well once a day? Well, any amount of breast milk will be beneficial, and certainly there are day-to-day antibodies and immunity that are being sort of passed through your baby that mostly we understand to be dose dependent, i.e. the more breast milk an infant might receive, the better it is for them. Things around the microbiome seem to be more associated with the exclusivity of breastfeeding, i.e. not having formula into the gut in the first 6 months. But, any breast milk is going to provide some advantage when it comes to your child's health. So factor that in when making your choice.
I hope you enjoyed this bite-sized clip. And why not go ahead and share it with others? If you want more, go back and listen to the full episode linked in the description. Before you go, please can you do one more thing? Make sure you've hit that subscribe button, as it helps me and the podcast reach out to and support even more women with crucial, expert and reliable information through the podcast.
I'm Laura.
I'm Lauren.
And this is Go Love Yourself. She went, you're 26? I was like, size 26, yeah. And she was like, oh, right, that makes sense.
This is the show where we're learning to love ourselves a little more and taking you along with us.
I grew up never seeing anybody that looked like me, and that made me feel like not part of society, like almost like not a woman, because I just never felt like I fit in.
If you've got a relative that is mean about your body, Laura, what do we say to them?